Hey everyone, this is Sigrist, and today I'm going to help explain to you why some Americans are acting, well, stupid during this pandemic. This video is somewhat directed at non-Americans to hopefully give them a better understanding of the situation, but I'm sure there are some perspectives I could share with my fellow Americans as well, so let's get into it. It's time for another Alex Uncut. Sometimes Americans don't make sense. Like, seriously. Have you seen our deep-fried Oreos, deep-fried Snickers, deep-fried ice cream, deep-fried butter? We're gross. But I swear, everything has an explanation. Even why Americans are foolishly fighting back against social distancing guidelines and stay-in-place orders. First, let's talk about what they're doing that's so foolish, then we'll talk about why they're doing those things, and actually why there's some reason to hope that all is not lost. First, what exactly is happening? Protests and reopening. Well, these are the bad things that are happening. Starting with the protests. Even though we're approaching 1 million cases in the United States and 50,000 deaths as of the taping of this video, many people are protesting stay-at-home orders in their states. First, what's a stay-at-home order? A stay-at-home order happens when the government issues an order to restrict people's movement to help control the spread of something like a pandemic virus. You have to stay home except when you have an essential task to do or your work itself is deemed essential, like healthcare workers or people who work in grocery stores. And it turns out people think that this is way too oppressive, or that their government is overreacting anyway. Last I checked, there were 18 states where people were protesting, including in my state of Ohio. Notice that New York State hasn't experienced mass protests because they really see firsthand what's going on at their hospitals. The other thing that's happening is that states are reopening for business. Now, this is happening well before we're seeing a flattening of the curve, but a common refrain is coming from the political right. It is better to keep the economy healthy than to guarantee that the citizens are healthy. Why? Because in the long term, a poor economy will hurt more Americans more than a silly worldwide pandemic. In fact, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, or Vice Governor, Assistant Governor, whatever, just recently said there are more important things than living. And that saving this country for my children and my grandchildren and saving this country for all of us is important. He noted that he didn't want to die, but he's got to take some risks and get back into the game and get this country back up and running. And that's really what people think in America. Save the economy over people's lives. And it's not that big a deal. Why on earth do Americans do this? It actually makes a lot of sense if you try to understand the underlying reasons as to why they're fighting back so hard. It really seems like they're on Team Virus, but they're not, knowingly. But they do seem to be doing things to help the virus spread. What are those reasons? First, let's look at a simple Facebook post that my dad made recently. I'll use this to explain that mentality. Don't worry, he's the good guy. Here's what he said, roughly, not quoting. My dad made a post basically saying, hey, wear masks, and I don't think it's a good idea to open up our state so quickly. Georgia probably shouldn't be opening up its economy before it has the situation under control down there, which it doesn't. And that sounds good to me. Gotta love my dad. Good work. Now, most Americans, his Facebook friends anyway, were supportive of him, and there was one person whose comments really stood out. Not supportive. This is what will help you understand this radical American mentality. I've read what he wrote without revealing his name. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is. No, I didn't get permission from my dad to use this, but he's too nice, and he would have said no. This is long, but it will help you understand exactly why Americans think this way. So here's what that person said in response to my dad's comment. Open up Ohio. If you all want to live in fear due to the social media, then that's your choice. Stay at home, then. But for others, we want to have their jobs back, their choices back, not controlled by the governor, then we should be able to. You have your choice and I have mine. It's time to move forward and get this economy rolling again. Like President Trump said, our economy was not meant to be shut down. Now it's doing more damage than good. People's lives are being destroyed because of a virus. So it should be our choice whether or not if we want to leave our house and go to work or go anywhere for that fact. Sad, so many people living in fear. My dad responded relatively peacefully. You can pause and read it if you'd like. And then it went on to the next guy's response. Actually, I do agree people are living in fear. Why would you make a mask for protection then? That's fear to me. Heard many doctors come out and say a mask does you no good unless you're a carrier of COVID-19. So it's my belief that people are living in fear of this virus. Have worked now for over 5 weeks on my job with no fear of getting this virus, because obviously I have a strong immune system unlike others, and I do have a bit of a hypertension, blood pressure, and hypertriglycerides. But for me, I refuse to live in fear just because I have these conditions. If it's meant for me to contact the virus, I will, just like dying. When your number is called, there is no stopping you from dying. That's just a fact. Very quickly, because non-Americans might not get this, it's a religious thing to think that there is a definite time that God has chosen for you to die, and it's inevitable. But anyway. But people die every day from car accidents, during overdoses, suicides, amongst other health issues, but we don't stop life and shut down the country or states for that. Just because this is contagious, no more than the flu is, not true by the way, it's much more contagious, doesn't make it right to control people's lives and not let us make our own choices based on how we feel. I feel fabulous, and the way this is destroying people's businesses and even relationships, along with multitude of other things in their lives, it's time to open up American. We can shut down forever or no one will be living a long life. So many mistakes in there. My dad responds, final point, many people carrying the virus, possibly you, possibly me, don't know it. Wearing a mask doesn't protect me. It's a selfless act. It protects others. We are doing it for the team, not out of fear for ourselves. The cause is much greater than ourselves. Just so you know, I've edited nothing here. These are the exact words they wrote. So we're almost done. And with this context, I think you'll understand the mentality a little bit more. So the guy continues. Sorry, his grammar is terrible. I can't read this. That's the most absurd thing I've ever read. Doing it for the team like I'm supposed to protect other people, that's not anyone's responsibility but your own. This is an important point. Some Americans believe that their safety is not their business. He continues. I'm sorry, but I don't live to support other people, only my own family. Also important if you want to understand their mentality. That point, family. Since when do I go to work and make money for other people but my own family and worry about the people around me? People need to, again, be able to make their own choices, and I choose not to wear a mask in public. It's not helping no one unless you have the virus. My point is I want it to be my choice to protect myself. Since when did it become my responsibility to protect everyone else in this world? That's what we own guns for our protection, not wearing a mask. What, you're going to shoot the virus? This is confusing. And if I am carrying the virus, I feel pretty damn good for being 50 years old and still going to work and making a difference at my job. And my dad responds, if caring for others is absurd, then I'm absurd. I am sure people I encounter with underlying risks, and the senior population especially, will appreciate my absurdity. I know many others absurd like me. Haha! That's my dad. We are related and sarcastic. Dude, you should start a YouTube channel. You can care for others all you want, brother, he responds, but doesn't mean you're here to protect people. That's their own responsibility to do that. No one else, bro. My dad is not your bro. Again, it's all about my freedom and constitutional rights that are being controlled by the governors and by a damn virus. Get over it, brother. Again, brother thing. Time to reopen America. I hope you personally stay at home forever. Then, my man. That's terrible. What a weirdo. But for me, I'm moving forward as this country needs to. If people have no jobs to go back to, then they don't have health insurance, then people are going to die off anyways due to the fact that they can't pay for medical help and attention. Which, side note, is why I always say vote for Bernie Sanders. And we're the only country in the industrialized world not to have some sort of universal healthcare system. So let's talk about why this guy and many other Americans just like him feel this way. Personal liberty, distrust of government. Many mistakenly believe it comes from us leaving England. And while that is often used by people to encourage the distrust in government, it's much more recent than that. The Republican Party has been sowing distrust in government for years to really dismantle regulations and lower taxes. Less government equals good. We distrust scientists. Same reasons above. Scientists often support regulations that protect our health and the environment, which some argue is bad for business, which it technically is in the short term, but not in the long term. For another day. Protecting family is another big thing. Family first. I can't morally judge people on this one. I mean, we can because my morals are different, I guess, but that sounds bad. It's not. I think I'm actually more in line with the greatest generation of Americans who went overseas to battle an enemy they'd never met before, Nazi Germany. It's important to, yes, take care of your family, but sometimes that means doing the right thing and making sacrifices so the enemy doesn't get close to your family. Just like now with the coronavirus. However, there are people that are getting desperate, and that is what motivates a lot of people. Here's an excerpt from the BBC. Christian Yingling said, he called the protests he attended an acceptable risk. I'm going to do what I got to do to feed my family, said Mr. Yingling. If it means I got to risk my health, then so be it, and yes, potentially the health of others. My mortgage payments are late, my truck payment is late, and if I lose either of those, I'm dead in the water. When you're quarantining healthy people, that's tyranny, is what he added to that. Our constitutional rights are getting viciously trampled right now, and people aren't going to put up with that for long. It hit home, like it did. Yeah, if you lose your home and car, you have a higher risk of dying too. So in his mind, braving the virus is better. But he's still wrong to point blame at people trying to control COVID-19. A lot. And I mean, a lot of the blame goes to this administration and political party that has been dismantling the very safety nets in America that would probably have helped him manage his economic problems during this downturn. Not to mention an administration that just gave out trillions to businesses and only $1,200 to Americans making under $75,000 a year. Maybe enough for one mortgage and truck payment, and that's it. Yeah, I feel bad because this guy was tricked by them and is still being manipulated by a party that is desperately trying to avoid blame for the situation. But this is really what some Americans are thinking. My personal freedom is what makes me an American. I don't trust the government telling me what to do because the people I support in government told me not to trust the government. I don't trust scientists because that's what those government people said. Don't trust them. And family first. This is what motivates some Americans to risk their lives and the lives of others. And while I completely disagree with what they're saying and even disagree with their right to break stay-at-home orders and protest, I see where they're coming from. I know I'm going to get hate for this, which is dumb, but I'll say it anyway. You can completely disagree with someone and to some extent even hate them for it and still understand why they are doing what they're doing. And if you can do that, it will help you. I promise. Know thy enemy. That was dark. Okay. What's the bright side? There are a few reasons to be hopeful that Americans, as a whole, will eventually still band together and do the right thing. First off, this is less common than it appears. The protests are currently being used as a political tool by the right to control the media, but even most of my Republican friends aren't going to these protests, even if they believe that the country should reopen. Next, Americans' thoughts aren't what they appear on Facebook. I was going through those comments, and I found another ridiculous turd of knowledge. It said, lack of testing and targeted testing has skewed projections in data. Flatten the curve only avoids the spike overwhelming hospitals. The same number will die as we cannot stop the virus. It will run its course until treatments and vaccine are available. COVID-19 death rate is more like less than 0.5%. Not true, not true at all. Just a quick point here. As we all have family working in hospitals, we want them to be safe. Overwhelming the hospitals means that more people will die, not the same number of people. Constant exposure in an overwhelmed hospital can cause worse symptoms and potential death to our healthcare professionals who are exposed all the time. And having insufficient amount of life-saving equipment means that less lives will be saved. But I clicked on that guy's name, did a quick background check, and found his Facebook profile, and it was all public. Of course, older generation, but surprisingly, him and I shared a lot of the same thoughts on the virus and the U.S. government's response to it. I'm not here to say this guy is right, but he's not. It's dangerous to have the thoughts he has. However, it's not as simple as, well, this guy is a brain-dead idiot. Mainly because if you're brain-dead, well, I guess you are an idiot. Maybe that was redundant. People are just misinformed. And you can be mad at them for that. But really, we should be more angry at the media for that. The politicians, the ones doing the brainwashing for their own personal gain. They are truly out only for profit above all else. I mean, that other guy I mentioned above, he's an actual idiot, but there is one other reason to find hope. Lots of Americans are like my dad. We believe in science. We believe doctors. We support our healthcare workers. I mean, look at my dad, who wrote the original post trying to reach out to people in his demographic, white, boomer, male in the countryside, knowing he's going to get criticized and cursed at by his neighbors and people he considers his friends. He wrote that. Kind of makes me a bit proud. Maybe Papa Sigrist should start that YouTube channel after all. It is dangerous, especially in America right now. And for you non-Americans, I hope you walked away learning a little something about us crazy Americans. First of all, not all Americans are crazy. And second, even the crazy ones have their reasons. The reasons might be wrong, but maybe we can understand them a little more. That's it for today. I hope you're all staying safe out there. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that little button down there. And if you'd like to support me, there is a Patreon link in the description that I've just recently set up. My name is Alex Sigrist, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, Haseyo.